How are you?
I am doing wonderful. I am playing some StarCraft, loving my life and some TVP, but getting ready for some coaching. Um, so I do this with everybody, but really quickly tell me what race you are, what kind of MMR or league you're in, and just a really rough kind of idea of what you kind of want to focus on today.
Yeah, so I'm a Diamond 2 Zerg. I've been trying to play kind of based on your Bronze GM series, so I've been doing a lot of LingBaneHydra. I like to play, defensive macro style. But I feel like there's a lot of learning I need to do to kind of move up. So I'm excited to get your expert opinion on what I can improve on.
Nice. Nice. That sounds good, man. Yeah, we could definitely just jump into it, look at it. Diamond 2, I mean, we're definitely going to be looking at a lot of things then. Yeah, it'll be easy peasy. So,
All right.
just jump on a North American server if you aren't there already, and then, so I'm not gonna fall into the same trap I fall into every day. I'll just give you my details. I'm always like, try and join the channel, and everyone's like, it takes like 10 minutes. We're like, oh, just fuck it, we'll just do IDs. So I just gave you my info right there, so you can add.
Okay.
And then just let me know what your ID is in game, because I have a lot of pending invites, so I'll have to look through it.
All right, so just send it. It's bright white.
Okay. I'm gonna open it. I have Bobby Sanchez and Brutane Clan.
Oh, Brute Client, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot it's different from BattleNet to the in-game.
Okay. No worries. I got you. And then I will invite you to party. I'll make you leader. You can host the replay up, and then just before you start it, make me the lobby host, and we'll be good to go.
Okay. Can I ask you one or two, general questions?
If you don't, go for it, man. This is your lesson. You do what you like. Interrupt me as many times as you can if you want.
All right. Yeah, I started off. I'm using grid hotkeys because that's just what made sense to me when I was beginning. But I feel like most people I watch use standard.
Okay.
Is that something that's worth, switching to?
It's whatever you're comfortable with. You are not going to be like at a worse or like at a disadvantage because you use grid. You can make grid work just fine.
Okay, great. And then the second kind of general thing is I never know how many queens I need to make. Is that like super dependent on what you're playing against, or is there a good rule of thumb or something?
Like a little bit of it is about what you're playing against, and then a lot of it is actually what your opener is going to be. So if you're going to be really, really gas light, you're going to need more queens. But the more gas investment you take, the less queens you're going to want to make to balance it out. So an example would be like, if you go for like a third base speedling expand style, where like you rip 2 drones off gas, which is probably the most standard build Zergs do.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Okay.
Almost every game.
That kind of a build, you're probably going to want to make like 7 queens on average. Like 3 queens injecting and 4 queens creep spreading. And then when you take extra hatcheries after that, like we're talking maybe like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and you start going for like another base, a macro hatch, stuff like that, you can start ripping queens off of creep spread and putting them on injecting as well. So you can actually have like 5 queens injecting at one point.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I've got a couple, but I'll ask you
sure.
in the replay. I think it's probably a good time.
Sounds good. But yeah, like if you were to like gonna be the kind of guy that was gonna go for like, like very delayed gas, or you're just gonna really stay on grind army for a very long time, going to more queens would be fine too. Like even just like 10 queens or 12 queens, but yeah, super standard 7 queens ZvT with the 3 base speedling opener is pretty good. It's just like a good overall.
Yeah. I noticed my minerals kind of get out of hand sometimes right after getting, half saturation on the third base. That would probably be a good way to spend it.
Yeah. So big one is we're gonna look at your larva for sure. Like I'm literally staring at it right now, and so far it's fine. Some people neglect more than others You know, just it's just something that is definitely improvable all the time. But I'll be looking for it throughout the game to see if there's points in the game where you're maybe getting distracted or stuff like that, and as to like why you might have problems there.
Oh, I do have a quick. The second Overlord goes to the front of the base, right?
Yeah.
Watch for bunkers or something.
Yeah, there's two reasons why. One is you can like if he does build a bunker, you're gonna see it like in where the Overlord kind of is now. He's gonna build it probably within range of the hatchery, but not close to the ramp. He'll probably build it closer towards where his barracks are for the reinforcing Marines to keep coming. So it's like perfectly placed Overlord right now, and also you'll be able to see. You have the entire vision of like the choke point covered right now, so you could see an SCV walk into your base at any point in time too. So you would know if there's anything in your base. Like there's like the same thing with a probe. You would know if there's a probe that walked in your base. And then if it was a bunker proxy, what you could do with your Overlord is you could actually just right click it up to that cliff, and your Overlord would be safe. So it's close enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like in front of your base to cover, but it's also close enough to the cliff to where you could also not lose it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
It's a perfect Overlord. And then you can send it out, like I would say you can send it to like the top right side of his main base once your hatchery is at, you know, we're talking like 65 seconds of the way completed. Yeah, so it's like almost
I usually do that like right after I start the third
Hi
Overlord.
guys, doing a coaching lesson. Hello. Thank you very much for the raid, Saul. Yeah. And then your first Overlord's looking good. Positioning wise, your Overlord looks, your first Overlord looks like it's going a little bit, maybe like just slightly too far north. And it looks like it's almost like clicked directly, like almost like a little bit under his command center. Okay, there you go. Okay, now you did it. The only reason, or go ahead. What are you gonna say?
I was just. I saw another one of your coaching videos you recommended, like top of the ramp.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do, but I click on the mini map sometimes, so I think I missed it.
It mostly, I'll say this, it's very minor what I'm about to say, because you did, I literally just saw you click like you just said, it was the top of the ramp, and you should do that as well. But the only thing I'm trying to make sure you do here is if your Overlord ever goes a little bit too far north too fast for whatever reason, if it ever happens. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it is actually like it looks like it was angled a little bit higher, but maybe it's not. I don't know. It just feels like it's a little north. You really just want to see the natural. Like you want to see the natural. You do want to also see that ramp as quick as you can, but also like if your Overlord can possibly like have the edge of its vision skirt the opening of its natural, of your opponent's natural, you can see. You know, like what if this dude's actually walling the natural instead, or and you can see his like you just want to see what he has there. Obviously, that's the biggest thing. So
yeah.
I mean,
I have noticed I've needed to skirt it over to actually see the natural once or twice.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad as long as you just make sure you have vision right away. Like as long as you control it and you don't sit there for a while and just wait on it and go, oh shit, well I should probably go down. And 30 seconds later you realize, oh, there's a building there. So yeah, it's fine. It's just always make sure you do that, and you can see the ramp, you can see the barracks. And now this is when I would say, make sure you don't keep going too far up. Because I think the Overlord, like this is what I was kind of hinting at, where maybe it's just like a tad bit too far north. Because right now you're actually missing the natural, and you don't know if he does or doesn't have one. And the faster you can find that out, like it's critical information right now. And the reason why is because it tells you if you should be like right now getting ready to make more lings, or if you should be making drones to be totally fine.
Okay.
So okay, you see it now. That's good. Perfect. Okay, and now seeing this, so quiz time. Okay, quiz time.
Yeah.
Right now, when you see what everything you see right now, what first? I'm gonna ask you two questions. Okay, what are you gonna do with this Overlord right now? What do you think is the best thing to do with it?
Well, I want to put it back on the cliff, but it'd probably die if it flew over the Marine, so I think I fly it over his third to try to get it out of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking. I mean, it's Hellions is what I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. You answered the other question.
But one of the things I feel like I struggle with is I've been trying to go roaches if they're going for mech.
Yeah.
So I've been finding I, is that a good idea?
Yeah, no, definitely,
And,
100% it is. Yeah.
and how do I know? Like, is it when I see a second factory? Is that how I know?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So right now he could be going for it for
This build.
either
I'll just give you some an idea here of what a Marine opener means. Okay. This build, when a Terran player goes for a Reaper into a factory, and with a command center, and then he goes for a reactor, which looks like it's going to be Hellions, and then he has a Marine shooting. A lot of times, what Terran will do, I'm looking at your vision right now, so I haven't actually yet looked at his base, like his actual resources. Your Overlord should not look at the resources either right now, because it's 100% going to die, and you totally could save it right now if you do what you said, where you kind of go towards his cliff, and you you could skirt the cliff up, or if he goes down, you go back into his base. If he goes up, you just go down, and you could get all the way to the open airspace in top right, which would mean you would rotate your other Overlord. Your second Overlord would then go to his natural cliff. Okay. So you just reverse it.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, like okay. that would be a good thing to do though. It's like for future, if this ends up being something, a way to like fix a problem. But if a player plays like the way he's doing right now, I would say chances are, it's not guaranteed that he's gonna go for mech right now, but I would say chances are that there's a good chance he's gonna go for like a 1-1-1 opener, because again, he doesn't have to. He could go double factory here if he wanted to. But a lot of times when people play like this, they usually use the Marine to shove out your Overlord, which gives them so much good types of harass potential. And harass potential, I would say, for Terran is the safest if you go 1-1-1, because 1-1-1 is the most defensible against all-ins from Zerg. It just has the most versatility against Zerg without having to be super fortified, where he makes like a siege tank and turtles. Like, he can still harass you, but at the same time be super defensive if he needs to be, if you actually all in him. So 1-1-1 is probably going to be the most common option for Terran in this situation. Like a starport's going to come next, because it's just versatile. And then from there, if he makes another factory, it's totally going to be mech.
Okay. So how does that affect when I take a Bane Nest or a Roach Warren? Do I wait until I know?
Always the same thing. It's always going to be the same for you. And you're going to be taking your Roach Warren or your Bane Nest roughly around the time when your natural is fully saturated. Because if it's a Bane Nest, the way it's going to go is your natural gets fully saturated. Your next two drones make they fill in the gas again in your main. So you're back on 3 out of 3. And you're also going to be really close to having enough gas for a layer then. If you're going to go Banes, you go layer first, and then make a Baneling Nest with your next 50 gas. Because if you go Banes, the biggest thing about Banelings that you need to be worried about is getting Baneling speed. And Banelings make sense against players that they're not going for some weird-ass mech build right away. They're going for, it could be Hellion opener into a biotank type of player, or something like that. I mean, if it's just like, if you have an idea that it's going to be some type of bio, that build is amazing. It's very strong. It could go into like LingBaneHydra. It's just solid. However, if you know it's mech already, and you're like, let's just say like he showed you no Marine at all, and he actually had a second factory started, and you're like, holy shit, this guy is totally going mech. What you could do then is you could actually just instead of making the Bane Nest after you make your layer, you could start a layer and you can make a Roach Warren. It's the exact same thing though, literally.
And can I add a Roach, like if I scout later that he has 2 factories
or
has a ton of Hellions, I can throw one on when I see it.
Yeah, if you actually get to a point where you're like, all right, I don't know what he's doing yet, I'm gonna go Baneling Nest, because I play against bio way more than I play against mech. So it's just, I'm playing the odds here, and I think I'm gonna play bio. And then suddenly you scout him again and go, oh shit, no, he's mech. Just immediately, even though you have the Bane Nest, just take a Roach Warren, it's fine.
Yeah. I guess one of the reasons I've been doing that is I've been struggling against, if they make more than 2 or 4 Hellions, I feel like I'm a little caught off guard, and maybe that's because I'm not, you can see I'm not making a queen yet. I'm not constantly producing the queens. Yeah. Maybe that would help too without the Roach Warren.
So, yeah, if we're talking about queen production, your natural should be basically pumping queens nonstop until you hit 7, and then your third base when it's done, it should be adding on to that production to pump as well until you hit 7. Your main base should only make 1 queen and then stop, because you can't afford to make 4 queens right away while taking a third base. It's just not going to happen. Like it's just too much money. So your natural totally can do it, and then you'll have the cost of the natural queen production with your third with your drones, and you should be okay. Your lings should be, you make 4 lings like you did for the Reaper, right when your pool is done, and then when your spawning pool's speed is roughly around almost done. This is going to be roughly around like 3 minutes 30 seconds, or like maybe like between 3:20 to 3:30. Okay, so if you look at the game clock, and it'll always usually be around that same time if you do this opener. Take another like 10 lings then, because that's also going to be the time if the Terran opens Hellions, like you've kind of confirmed that he is. That'll be around the time when he has 4 Hellions, and he could dive into your, like he might just like he'll have 4 Hellions across the map, and he could just drive into your base if he wanted to, if he's that kind of a guy player.
Okay.
So and then if you have 14 lings and he drives in your base, you just let him go into your queens first. Always like this is one thing a lot of Zergs do that is a big mistake. This is huge. Okay, listen to this. Make sure you commit this to memory. It's very important. Okay. Defensive positions with ling defenses. Your overlords should always give vision in front of your creep. Overlords 3, 4, and 5 should always be in front of your creep spread, because overlords 1 and 2 are going to be at his base. They're going to scout him. But overlords 3, 4, 5 should be in front of like the left side of your ramp, in front of your natural. And then overlord, that's overlord 3. Overlord 4 could be on like where it kind of is right now. That's perfect. If that overlord were to stay there near the rocks, that's amazing. And then the next overlord should be like north of the 3rd. So you could basically, the point is you see where Hellions go way before they commit to a location, so you're not just seeing the Hellions as they get to the edge of your creep. And the reason why this is so good is because all you got to do is put your queens in the way of the door, whatever path he's choosing to go for. Queens, go there. Okay, he's coming. Queens, smack the Hellions. He's going over there. Do the same thing again. You repeat this over and over and over. And if he just goes, oh, queens are over there, I'm just gonna drive past them, get hit a bunch, and then I'm gonna just go for the drones. That's when you engage with lings, and you can just be like, hey, I'm gonna just like push you into my queens again, or I'm gonna surround you when you run on my creep deeply, and you don't lose any drones this way, and you just wipe out Hellions. If he's a suicidal Terran, where he just YOLOs in, and a lot of Terrans do shit like that. Like they get drone crazy. That's like perfect defense. That way you don't have to spend as much larva rebuilding lings, which is what screws a lot of players over. Because you just, if you prioritize, all right, queens, you just creep spread. Every time Hellions come, I'm only going to use Zerglings. And if you ever chase off creep and you're like, shit, okay, I just lost 8 Zerglings there. Now I only have 6, and now I got to rebuild that.
I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, don't ever do that if you can, because it's just all it does is if he kills like 8 lings, that's the same thing as him now. He just killed 4 drones, because you have to waste the larva to rebuild that.
Yeah, I didn't think about it like that.
All right, and then so here's like obviously the overlord placements I gave you a second ago no longer make sense because you took this third, which is totally fine. But if you take this third, same thing again. Overlord's in front of where he's gonna go, so now it would be on the top of that ramp below your third, and the big open like animated like bridge looking thing between those 2 destructible plates, or like the open gaps, and then near where like the path is, the vision blocker, that'd be like another great overlord spot. So now you could see, like we're good to go. And then you would actually need a 4th overlord for this one, because you would need overlord as well above your natural, because that's also a dark spot.
That's really good to know. I usually fill in the airspace on the sides, but then I just kind of get lazy, and there's usually a whole herd of overlords sitting somewhere doing nothing. There's two
phases of Zerg overlord like vision fillers. Phase number 1 is up until 3 base saturation. Okay, that is ground coverage before your creep is there. As soon as you have 3 base saturated though, and this is going to be roughly around the time when you're like 80 supply, 90 supply, anywhere in there. It's like we're talking like 6.5 minutes, 7 minutes. Right about that time, take all your overlords that are still in the middle of the map, that have like the 4 or 3 whatever that you've kind of like covered the area with, just to make sure you have vision around your base. Or if your creep spread is just fucking on point, once you have like 1 to 2 screen lengths of creep forward ahead of your creep, you can then also just rip the overlords off, which might happen at like 5:30 to 6 minutes if your creep is just cruising. But then all you do, once you go into phase 2, where your creep has now actually created a big net around your expansions, you can then fill in gaps on the side of the map with overlords, and that phase 2 overlord spread is going to be the rest of the game. You just fill in that, and that's it. That's all you do with overlords.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, it's huge at keeping your larva being, alive, basically, by not losing lings and by not losing drones that way. So you can just like rely a lot of your defense on queens. which is why every Terran player is like, queens are fucking bullshit.
Oh, and the second queen does 2 tumors to start off with, right? Front and connecting the.
Yeah. So it's all about timing. So if you delay your second queen at your natural, you'll only be able to get probably 1 tumor off because it's delayed. But the idea is if you make your second queen like right away, right after the first queen is made out of your natural, you will have enough time. If you place your hatchery at the proper time as well, which is roughly about 30 supply, like 29, 30 supply, that's a great time to take your third in ZvT.
Okay.
If you do those two things together, your queen should be able to get about 2 rounds of energy off on a tumor, and then go to your third and become an injector by the time the third finishes.
Okay.
And then I like your creep placement too. Like you did one out in the front of both of your bases. Okay, so we'll talk about what's happening in just a second.
Yeah, this is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of. I mean, this has happened in this game. And it happened in a couple other ones where, more than a couple Hellions show up, maybe a little bit later. But I usually don't respond to it well.
Sure, that's because you don't have vision. The Overlord thing we talked about would totally fix this for you. It'll give you so much more of a warning that this is happening.
Okay.
And then you also kind of skip the rule of Zergling, so we'll talk about that too in just a sec. And we'll talk about everything in just a moment. But I do like the fact that your creep should be like this. Okay, you should think about like your base is like a ball, and you want to spread creep not directly next to each other, but you want to like have like pathways where it just spreads really deeply one angle to the next, and you want to connect all your bases. So obviously I think your natural tumor to your main, like going back into your main base, is like great because you're covering your whole main base with this. It's so important to do that. But I love like how basically all I'm saying is your creep is not really tight, it's spread, which is perfect because your tumor that's going up that whole hallway in the center of the hallway north of your natural is amazing. The creep tumor that connected your natural to your third, and then it could jump north now, like northwest a little bit towards that path blocker or the vision blocker. That would be amazing for that tumor. You could put another tumor on the left side, like directly left of where the current tumor is at your third. So like a brand new one could be just south of those destructible rocks, and then you could put another final tumor like southwest at going towards the ramp up. Like this is all could be like the next tumor and the next tumor you make with your queen basically. Then you can spread in all those directions, and then you just spread them all like as middle hallway-ish as you can, like to cover as much ground, and you fill in gaps with new tumors all over the place. Whenever they spread too far apart, a new one fills in between that, and you just keep doing it that way. So your spread, like the amount of what you're spreading so far is good. But you'll never have enough vision right now, which is why Overlords are so important here, because you'll never be able to have a web of creep by 4 minutes or like 5 minutes. So that's just never going to happen. Okay. So Overlords are huge here. And vision is going to definitely help you with harass. So because like if you know he's going Hellions especially, you know that he's going to try to do this.
Right.
So your queen count right now is only at 3 at almost 5 minutes. Your queens are definitely a little late. Like you could have more queens in this right now for sure. You just gotta stay on top of it, right? You just gotta make sure you keep making them the way it should go is the main natural make queens together, which is 2. Then we're going to 7, right? So that's 2. Then your queen at your natural makes another queen again. That's now 3. And then your third base is done. And queen at the third and the natural now make 2 queens at a time, 2 sets of that, which takes you to 5 and then 7. That's how that should be. And you should, the priority of Zerg, the way it goes, Larva, always first. If you're like, fuck, I don't have a queen started, I only have 180 minerals, and I have 4 larva, and I'm ready to make queens. Spend your larva, and then make your queens. Do not make a queen, and then make another queen, and then go back to spend your larva now when you have like 5 larva sitting there. Don't do that. Okay. Always do the larva first.
Yeah. Yeah, this is about the point I mentioned earlier. I have like almost 1,000 minerals, but I only have 3 queens. I feel like that could, by spending that.
It's just a little bit of neglect. I think maybe you're like looking at your scout a little bit too much. Maybe you're like a lot of people do this kind of shit too, where they look at a scout and their thought process just starts like overanalyzing like what their opponent is doing, And if you're
I've definitely done that.
yeah, and then if you don't think about what you're doing enough, no matter, even if you're right, it's still now wrong because you spend way too much time wasting time, and even if you have the correct answer, you can't even deal with it anymore because you're built so far behind. So definitely make sure you're always like, even when you're like, literally, this is why I tell people 5SD. It's so fucking important because you can, like, if I tell you, okay, I want you to take your hand and I want you to run it in a circle on your head, and now I want you to say the alphabet. Like, if like you fucking just don't even think about running a circle in your head and you just do something else, you can still do it because it's a subconscious task, which is what 5SD, 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 5SD actually is. You don't have to actually, like, it's like breathing as well. You don't have to go, all right, breathe in. Okay, let's talk some more. Okay, exhale. Like, it's just there. So if you just make automated macro for yourself, or you're just larva, 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 like, you can actually then look at your opponent and not fuck your build up. Basically. So make sure, just make sure that is definitely something you're doing, for sure. And now, so again, we talked about the Ling thing. You don't have enough Lings, but if you do like 320 to 330, I want you to be making like, another like 10 Lings. Okay. That'll definitely help you with Hellion poke boys who just go for your drones, basically.
So instead of 8, like 15 or so?
Yeah, go to like 14 Lings or so, yeah.
14?
Like 14 to 16, that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure you have a good chunk of Lings that can, if he dives into your base, you have enough to like really get a good surround and actually, have enough to kill him. Because if you only have like 8 Lings and he has 6 Hellions poke through, one auto attack and suddenly you just lost 5 of those 8 Lings and you're like, well, 3 Lings are going to kill 6 Hellions, even if they're kind of bruised a bit here. But if you have, if you have like 14 Lings and he does one auto attack and he kills 5 of those Lings and his Hellions are like yellow-ish because of the queens from earlier, and now your Lings just beating the shit out of him really fast, and like 3 of the Hellions die, and then you lose a couple more Lings to a couple more auto attacks, but then overall you do kill the Hellions because he dove on you. Like, it's just safe, basically. 14 Lings with queens will totally be able to beat 6 Hellions. It should happen. Okay. And then that's enough as well for you to feel safe to then saturate your bases. Like, your scouts that follow up are important, because if you go, if he has a third base, that reinforces that you can fully saturate your third. If he doesn't have a third base and you scout into his base right now, which I like that you're scouting in the 4-minute block of time, I would say it's slightly late by maybe like 20 seconds into his base, but you're still getting the gist of it. Like, you're getting the good scout off, because you're seeing, like, this is what you want to see. Is there a third base that is well underway, or is there like 4 racks right now, or is there like 3 factories? Like, is this dude prioritizing 2 command centers with a bunch of production, or is he prioritizing production that is just now starting around 5 minutes, or like 4:30 to 5 minutes? It's just like getting thrown down, which is what he's exactly doing right now, because he made the command center first. It's all you want to know.
So he's okay. So this is safe for me to saturate more.
Yeah. No, I'd like
command center.
I will say this. Because he has a natural, no matter what, you are safe to saturate your third base. Okay? Because he has a natural. If you see a third command center, you should ramp it up a bit and take your 4th base faster. If he does not have a third base, you should stop. You should still take your 4th base, but you should stop fucking droning at 3 bases. Because if you saturate a 4th and he only has a 2-base timing, you're going to die.
Yeah, I've done that plenty of times too.
Yeah, no, exactly, right? It happens to everybody. I've died to it many times too. But yeah, so you just got to know, okay, am I dealing with a guy who's going to be doing a timing at like 6.5, maybe 7 minutes? Or am I going to be dealing with a guy who's going to do a timing like at 7.5, 8 minutes? Something like that. The more he focuses on command center, like the third base, the more likely his timing is going to be more delayed, because all of his production's delayed. Okay. So yeah, just know that no matter what, you're always able to get a third base saturated, as long as you, don't have a situation happen where it's like, oh, I just lost 8 drones, because that throws everything off, right? Because I'm going to give you a number here. If you don't lose any drones, and you make the 14 Lings, and you make queens, and you're properly defend with queens and all that stuff, you could have a fully saturated third base at 6 minutes. And we'll see what's happening with the Terran at 6 minutes. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So Yeah, that like it's a bit rough. That just what just happened. You just lost 14 drones, and 100%. A lot of that is because your queens just weren't in position. That's all it really is.
Yeah.
So another thing I would recommend. It looks like you might already do it because of your control groups, but I would say it'd be great if you put all your army, your actual units on 1 by themselves, and then put your queens on like 2. Like just then we're talking about just the creep spreaders, not every queen, just creep spreaders.
Okay. I do usually do that. Just there aren't that many queens.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I say it looks like you do it, but that's good because then it means you can always you can be like 2, get in position. Hellions are coming from the left, so go to the left. 1, my Zerglings, like don't go to where the queens are. Go back a bit more, but still be between my drones and where the Hellions would try to go if they just shove forward. So if he dives, you immediately dive on his Hellions. If he turns around and he runs away, pull your Lings away. Do not chase. Just the more you can keep pushing him into your queens to get smacked repeatedly is amazing. But if he dives past your queens, your Lings could then shove into him, and you're going to make his Hellions have to like stop, go around, try to drive around it. They're going to take a fuckload of damage when they do that. Because Hellions don't ever want to attack you and then drive into you and attack you. They want to attack you, drive away from you and attack you. So if your Lings shove into him as he tries to drive past your queens, you shove him back into the queens again. Which is just going to be free damage all day for you. But yeah, like whenever the Hellions just kind of freely roam and they just get in your base like this, like if I was watching you play this game next to you, I would be like, okay, well the 6-minute drone window is now completely thrown off. This is now going to be a lot harder. If you are now, not only did you make a lot of roaches as well, which is going to slow you down, but you also made, or you lost a lot of drones too. So now I'm going to say you're probably going to be able to get to like 50 drones or like, yeah, roughly about 50 drones by, instead of 66 by the 6-minute mark. And that's ideal. Like, it's amazing if you can get there and start making an army then. But now it's going to be that kind of a game where you need to do something where it's either scout a little bit more aggressively to really confirm you can get away with 3-base saturation. So you really need to find that 3rd command center. Or, because now it's like it's required, because it's getting to that point now where since you're a little bit behind, it's almost the same thing as now as droning your 4th base. Because you're just having to recover what you lost. So finding a 3rd is critical now. If you knew a 3rd was there, you could still saturate 3 bases fully, but you really couldn't saturate 4 bases yet. You'd have to probably play a little bit more of a conservative game now. However, if this dude was going for a 2-base all-in and you don't find that 3rd, but instead you find a bunch of production that's already got reactors on it, he's just going crazy on cranking out units, you would need to stop droning probably like 50 to 55. And you would need to wait until you kill his push and then go back to droning for that to make sense. Because you're behind now.
Okay.
So it becomes more complicated when you take damage like this, which is why I always tell everybody the early game sets the pace so heavily for the late game, because it really does. It fucks every timing up.
Yeah.
And then ideally as well what you want to go for. I looked like you were going for it, but now it's a little fucked up as well because you lost some drones. But just to recap, just to make sure you always know this. We're talking about gas now. Your first gas, you rip 2 drones off, you get your speed. You don't resaturate it until 2 bases fully saturated. So then when you're at 2 bases of mineral lines, you fully saturate the gas again on the 1 gas. Once your 3rd base has half saturation, you can take 2 more gases anywhere you want. It could be at your natural or whatever. I usually do my natural. So then you have 2.5 mineral lines. Now you take 2 more gases again to take you up to 3, and you do not then take gases 4, 5, or 6 until all 3 mineral lines are fully saturated, and those 3 gases are the last thing you fill in.
Okay. Yeah, I have been doing the gases 2 and 3 at half saturation on the 3rd.
Yeah, that's good. It looked like you did that too, but then drones died, unfortunately, to Hellions, which sucked.
Yeah. And at this point, I sent those units over just because I lost a bunch of stuff and wondering if I could do anything.
So, what you're doing right now with the roaches, I think the roaches is a mistake. Okay. I think the lings.
Yeah, they're so slow.
Yeah, exactly. The lings are correct, but the roaches are a mistake, and the reason why I say that is because if this dude actually wanted to do another attack to you with any way, let's just say hypothetically he's weird and he's like, I'm gonna make 1 medevac instead of a add-on on my starport, and I'm gonna make 8 Marines go on that 1 medevac, and I'm gonna attack you, or just whatever. Like, he does some type of an attack to you in any way, and it's very easily defendable, but your roaches are all out of position that you made, and now all
Yeah.
your drones are super vulnerable. That would suck. And also, again, like you just said a second ago, roaches are also super slow because you don't have the speed upgrade, nor should you right now. But a Ling, all you wanted to know is what's at the front of his door and what's at his third. Like, does he have a third at a third already because he's really greedy, or does he have a third at his doorway because my Overlord didn't see one at his main base and he's walling with it? You just wanted to confirm if there was a third or not, and you have now, which is great. So you should immediately turn around now, go home, and you should crank drones out like fucking crazy and saturate 3 bases fully. Because you can. And if you don't do it right now, you're going to not be able to do it later.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to lose these units either. Oh, God. Alright, what are you going to say?
Is the Evo chamber and Hydralisk den timing okay?
That should be around the same time when you are taking your last 3 gases. It's
Okay.
I would say it's like slightly too early. It would have been okay if you didn't lose drones, but because you lost drones, everything got pushed back a little bit, and you're actually taking those before you're fully saturated. You're there pretty much, but like you're still at 60 drones. You should be like, we're talking like 70 drones when you take those.
Okay.
Because you're gonna lose drones when you build buildings, right? So you should be like cranking drones out like crazy, and then you take your gases and you take your evos and you take your hydrogen, and now suddenly you dropped back down to like 66. That's what you should be aiming for. That way you're not ripping drones off mineral lines and you're not undersaturating gases for too long. That could be saturated.
Yeah, I think that's something you said in another coaching session, is you don't want to rip any drones off mineral lines to build buildings, but that's always what I do. How do you just try to grab drones as they get made, or do you?
I would say it's acceptable. Like you can rip a drone off a mineral line as long as you're going to replace it quickly. I just don't want you, like, if you have, let's say you want to make 3 buildings, okay, and you just made 3 more drones, and your drones are like, they're in production, so at the most it's 12 seconds if you just made them. But let's say maybe even like you made them and 8 seconds later you're going to go back and build the buildings now because you were doing other shit around your base too, like spreading creep or whatever. And and now you build it. As long as you just replace it quickly, it's fine. But I just don't want you to do things like where you make a building and then for the next 45 seconds or 2 minutes or something like that, you're just undersaturated.
Yeah, I usually make a building and then replace the drone, and then build a drone to replace it.
That's good. Yeah, as long as you're doing that, that's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, because maintaining as much as you can of high saturation mineral line is going to make your build be a situation where, you know, if you're able to then handle spending that money, you're gonna be like, wow, I'm always like 20, 30, 40 supply ahead of everyone. Like, this is great. That's what you have to be as Zerg, because once you get to a certain point in StarCraft, if your skill level gets high enough, Terran players and Protoss players know how to match you as well to a certain degree, and certain players, like higher level players, are going to be able to like keep the pace with Zerg if you're playing really fucking greedy. So you have to really stay on top of it, because ever since I don't know if you played back then, but ever since they nerfed Larva, which you used to get 4 Larva per inject, now you only get 3. Ever since that happened, Protoss and Terran can actually keep up with Zerg if they're good. But in Diamond League and in Plat League and even in Masters League, there's plenty of Terran players and Protoss players who just don't have super efficient builds. They do shit that's inefficient here and there, and they always fall behind, like heavily off of Zerg if you're just cruising with fucking like your drone production, because I do think Zerg is a little easier to understand than Terran and Protoss for if you just know the timings. Okay, I make this at this, I make that at that. My supply is crazy. Like that Zerg is just like you make all of one thing or all of the other. Terran has to and Protoss has to constantly upkeep everything and try to guard it. And it can be a little bit more complicated at this level of play, at like Diamond level and Masters level. But yeah, no, it's just making sure you're always prioritizing the minerals is always going to give you the edge. That is what you need to really be giving yourself.
Okay. I think another thing I should do more of is, you know, scouting around about this point in the game to figure out, you know, what are they up to? Are they moving out, or should I be making a habit of? I guess I'm doing it here, putting some lings on the map or making an overseer or something. Or
I think what you should do is I'll say right now, okay, so like people in general have like limited amounts of things you can do, right? You have like a limitation on APM.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that would be better for you would be if you could maybe like leave a Zergling at like his future expansions. So you could leave a Zergling. You could have left a Ling at his 3rd. That is now a 3rd. So now you know it's there. But you could leave a Ling at like now his 4th and his 5th. Just have it sit there, and that way you can see if he's going to be really greedy about it. And then you can also send in an Overseer if you don't already know what composition he's going for at this stage. Like ideally you would already know, but if you somehow didn't know, you could send in either a Changeling or an Overseer or even a Zergling to go, are you going bio or mech? Like what the fuck is happening? Just figure it out, you know? But the bigger thing, instead of trying to like spread Lings everywhere around the map to be like, I need to know when he's pushing, I need to constantly upkeep this. Just figuring out what he's going for is what you really the only real goal you should have. How many bases is he on, and what is he building into compositionally? And then if you just creep spread, focus all of your attention on creep spread. That's gonna not only give you the ability to scout indirectly because you're gonna see when he walks on top of it, but it's gonna give you so much other advantages that are gonna make everything better for you. Like it's gonna give you it's constant vision, which is amazing, but it's going to give you constant mobility, which is great at dealing with defensive shit where you have to like bounce around your base. It's going to give you massive advantages in the big army fight if he decides to push you with the big timing, because now suddenly you have creep everywhere that you can engage him on. And then it's also, if you do like if you're really going to creep spread, it's going to give you control of the game beyond. It's insane how much control it gives you, because you can start creeping expansions if you get all the way across the map, and now it just becomes very fucking hard for Terran to be able to, you know, like take more bases at that point. It's such a pressure move that Zerg can do. And then also, if you actually decide to ever pull the trigger and just go attack him, all of your reinforcements are so fast getting across the map now. It makes all of your reinforcements, like, you know what everything a creep does, I'm assuming. It's very good, and if you're gonna do one task over the other. If you scout with Lings or if you scout with Creep does the same thing as Zerglings do. It scouts for you, but it gives so much other benefits too. Okay. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, definitely focus on that, I would say. Just try to know what composition he's going for with your Lings, and that's about it.
Okay.
And then at this stage now, you are going to go for LingBaneHydra. I love the double macro hatch in your main because you're definitely getting, your money's been a bit high.
Yeah. But is that something I should throw down earlier? I feel like I'm really inconsistent when I put it down, and I don't really know.
What I like to do is I like to throw down macro hatch number 1 when I take 4th base, and I like to throw down macro hatch number 2 when I take 5th base. And then I just, from that point on, I just take 6th base, 7th base, 8th base, but I don't take more macro hatches. I mean, the reason why you should do this is because you really do need the larva, the extra larva, because Lings are so larva expensive and mineral cheap. You're always going to have way too much money that you can't spend.
Yeah.
Yeah, your creep spread is definitely a weak point of your play right now. That's I would say, like, your defensive scouting is why this game is hard for you so far. Your macro is not that bad. But it's super, like, you've been stunted really heavily already. You've lost 15 drones early on, and you've started to play a little paranoid because, you know, you kind of need to, because you're like, well, fuck, I'm behind now, and if he does attack me, I need to be ready for this. But you would be able to know more about if you're getting attacked or not, if your creep is better. You would just feel more confident about then possibly being able to squeeze out drones or some shit like that. It would just give you more control over everything. But defensive positioning and defensive scouting with creep is something for sure to work on. Something we've definitely talked about a lot so far in this lesson. And then once you have control, once you get to a point, if the game is like this, where it's not able to be perfect and you have to play a little defensive, you should get to a point where you have a good chunk of what you want. Okay, you don't have to max, but you have a good chunk of what you want. Like, we're talking, if you're going to go LingBaneHydra, you have 20 Banelings, you have 30 Zerglings, and you have 15 Hydras. This army is worth the supply of, like, maybe 45 to 50 supply, okay? So if you had, like, 70 drones and 50 supply of army, you're, like, around 120 supply now, or some shit like that. Then, off of that, if your opponent still does not attack you, you could totally, and again, this is assuming your creep spread is going all right, you could totally then squeeze out a round of drones if you see your opponent is also guarding his 3rd base, like you have seen. Like, oh, he's got a 3rd, cool. He's planted his 3rd at his 3rd, he's setting that up. You could then squeeze out a round of drones. And the way you could recover quickly is you could do macro hatches like what you've done, because you're going to get more money faster, so you can spend that money faster. Just being able to get to that ramp up stage as quick as you can, but do it in a safe way when the game is thrown off, is what you need to be doing here. So like right now, I would say right now you've gone a little bit overboard on defensive units, because you still have the roaches from earlier. You have a lot of hydras. You have a okay amount of banelings, and you're making a fuckload of lings right now. And you're getting to a point where you're gonna start getting to that point where you're gonna max soon, because going from 0 to 100 supply is so much slower than going from 100 to 200. You're going to get there so much faster once you go beyond 100 supply. So getting a round of drones out right now, maybe like 15 drones, just to saturate your final base, like your gases and your mineral line at your 4th, would be amazing. And then you can start your 5th. I would say that needs to happen like right now.
Okay.
And in a game like this right now, like just objectively looking at it, let's say you don't see supply, like you don't see like the replay supply, so you don't know how much he's at, and you don't see anything besides what you're seeing in the game. Would you feel confident to take drones right now? And like if you were just playing this, do you think?
I think I get more and more nervous the less I see them. So,
sure.
I mean, I can't remember if I did it in this game or not, but
I'll say this, okay? You should. There's something that's happening in this game that you should feel nervous about. It's actually, we're going to go back talking about your macro. There is a big blunder here that's kind of happening. Instead of feeling nervous about the pacing of your opponent, where it's like, I could die. Shit, I could die. I don't know. I don't know where he is. I need to see it before I know what's going on. You should know. You should know this, okay? Just 100% believe this to your core. And this answers, like, because I literally believe this. And I feel like if I was you, I would be like, I'm making fucking drones right now, because I know I'm fine. Which is how you can guess people's supply. And if anyone who's listening to me talk right now has ever heard me guess supply, and I'm usually pretty close to being accurate, it's because of this rule right here. If your build, if you base your opponent's build off the pacing of your build, you know how much supply they have, and you know what they're capable of without even seeing what they're doing. Which is why all you have to know is what composition they're going for, and things like, did they take a 3rd or not? Like, and you know he took a 3rd, so now you're fine to saturate your 4th. But what you should be more afraid of and more intimidated by or more scared about, look at your main base. Your queen has spent all of its energy. I don't know how many injects are queued on the hatchery, but it has spent all of its energy, which is, it's good. Look at your natural. That queen has 6 injects sitting on it, basically, which is definitely, pacing is now off for you. That's a lot of larva missed. That is 18 larva, or really it would be 15 larva with the other 3 starting now. That could be there. So that's 15 more drones. That, like, literally, I want you to make 15 drones. That could have been 15 drones right there. And your 3rd base doesn't even have a queen at it. So, like, I don't know how long it hasn't been ejected for. I actually haven't really been staring at your injects for too long. And same thing with your 4th base. Your 4th base, I know it just finished recently. It is a bit late, but your 4th base does not have a queen at it. So when you take like your 4th base and stuff like that, you should definitely rip queens off of creep spread duty. And like we're talking about that 7 I talked about earlier. Once you get to like your 4th base, you should already have, we're talking like 15 active tumors at that stage, because just because of the queens that have been spawning creep the whole time so far. So you have a lot of spread already, and now you're just kind of filling in gaps, or you're replacing creep that gets killed at that point with with still whatever creep spread queens you have. But getting a queen to eject your 4th base, getting a queen to also inject your macro hatch in your main base. So now you go from 7 queens, 3 inject, 4 spread, to now 7 queens, 5 inject, 2 spread. And you're just able to crank larva like crazy. And if that's how you pace your build, you 100% know. I don't know what Terran's doing right now. I don't know if he's going to attack me, but my creep spread's good, so I don't see him. Just because I see he's not here, I know he's not attacking me yet. Like, it's indirect scouting where because you don't see him, you know he's not attacking you because you have vision around your base. That is in itself a scout. The more you spend your creep, the more safety, like the more time you give yourself to react to an attack. And then if you pace your injects like crazy with just proper macro, you're going to be like, well, right now I'm spending all my money. I'm cruising here with my injects. I'm able to, like, I have fuckloads of larva, but I'm constantly using it and spending it, and I'm at 150 supply. And let's just say you took some damage and but you recovered a bit. if you take damage like what you did, where you lost like 14 drones or whatever it was, 15 drones, what you should look at when that happens to you is you should tell yourself, okay, I lost 15 drones, but I didn't lose 15 drones when I only had like 20. I lost 15 drones when I had like 42 or something like that. And how long, if you had to guess, how long do you think it would take you to build 52 or Jesus? How long do you think it would take you to build 15 drones at when you are currently at, like, now, if you subtract, like, let's say you're at 42, okay? You lose 15, you go back down to 27. How long do you think it'll take you to build 15 drones when you have 27 currently mining?
I don't know, maybe 3 rounds of drones, so like 40 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, I would say about 30 seconds roughly. You had a good, like, it's a good guess, honestly. It's in the range of where you're at. So your build is like 30 seconds behind now. Like, yeah. 30, 35, whatever. It's around that time behind. So if you're cruising, with your build, and your build normally would be like, okay, if I'm at 150 supply and I'm just hitting my stuff all good, like, it's all going well, and when I'm at 150, my average opponent is usually at like 120 because I'm just macroing like a god. If you're 30 seconds behind now, you just add 30 seconds to their build. That's all you got to do, which is like, if you're at 150, they're at 120. Now you'd be at 150, they're at like 134 or something like that, or like 136. So they're going to just have a little bit more than what they should have in that stage. But
okay,
and like that's how you can read a game, to where you don't even see the army, but you know what they're at.
Right. So I know, what I'm at plus the time I'm behind, and I can decide based on the army, this kind of standing army I currently have, whether that's enough to keep me safe if he does push to squeeze out that last round.
Yeah. And then furthermore, like, if you look at things like, if shit happens like, oh, my natural queen hasn't injected in a long time, that doesn't mean, basically what that means is like, you're just because you're natural queen, that alone is like also putting your build behind by like maybe 30 seconds over time. Like, by this point now, with what it's accumulated on the energy, you're like 30 seconds behind. Because again, it's not as impactful. The individual aspect of that queen would be way more fucking impactful if you only had 2 bases. But because you have 4 bases now, it's a little less impactful because it's just a little piece of your overall macro. But you're still behind from that itself at this stage. And I would say that much energy on that queen is like another 30 seconds behind, roughly. Like, it's just missed larva that is not there. And if you think about how long it would take you to generate 18 larva off of 4 hatcheries now, that is a round of inject. And a round of inject is 30 seconds. So at this stage, you're like 30 seconds behind. Again, from that.
Okay.
So if, like, this is just something that you're going to be able to, like, it's like a skill that you'll develop more over time if you think about the game this way. It is literally the perfect term to describe this is game sense. Like, you'll just start feeling like you understand what the pace of the game is. And yeah, like, it's the faster you do it, the more you're just gonna, the faster you get all your shit going well, and you can read like, okay, I need to figure out what I need to see right now. And one of the most big key elements here are in ZvT are, did he take a natural? Did he take a third? Is he going mech or bio? Those 3 things are critical at like getting your build flowing as fast as you can. Because as soon as you know he has a third, before he goes into production, so we're talking 1-1-1 third base, crank your drones at your 4th. Just make drones at your 4th. Make like a few safety units, like your 14 lings, and once you're fully saturated on 3 bases, maybe make another like 20 lings or something, and make like 10 banes or some shit. Or make like, you could, if it's mech, you could make like 10 roaches, and then crank drones for your 4th base. Like, just something that can keep you safe, essentially. If he does any type of harassment to you. And if it's like not a third, you saturate 3 bases as fast as you can, and then you just make units until you kill a timing, because it's going to be that. Like, those rules, if you follow those, you will just like always hit these like crazy drone numbers super fast, and you will just crank out units like crazy.
Yeah, you make it look so easy on the bronze to GM.
No, it's because it's those rules. You like, if you just follow those rules, It's not easy to learn them and to get used to them and get comfortable with them, but once you do, the game will feel so fucking easy. And you're like, because it's always the same thing every time.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think I'm lacking game sense. I frequently am. I don't know what to expect, but I guess that will kind of come with time and more time spent
and
in every place.
I think the reason why you don't know what to expect is because you keep basing your scouting about what to expect off of what you see from him. The only thing you should think about with what you see from him is what he's making in general. Like, is he going battlecruisers? Is he going Hellions? Is he going mech? Is he going for Marines and tanks? You just want to know compositionally what he's making so you can make your own composition that you think is good against that. That's all you need to know. You don't have to actually calculate, like, okay, there's like 7 racks with 4 reactors and 3 tech labs. I need to know the exact dispersion of Marauder to Marine ratio. Like, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. Like, that is shit that you can pay more attention to when you get really comfortable. Like, you know, like knowing, like, okay, Ultras would be a bad idea because he has a shitload of tech labs or something like that. Like, you know, stuff like that does play a factor, like, for pro level. But for, like, just a ladder game, okay, don't give a fuck about what he's making or about how much of what he's making or things like that. Just pay attention to his CC timings and his composition that he's going for. Like, again, it could be as basic as mech, bio, sky. Those are the 3 things you would have to worry about, because mech is literally ground Terran. Sky is like he's going for BCs and shit and mass banshees or whatever. And then, you know, bio is just Marines, barracks units. If you just know that, you can base everything about your pacing of your opponent off of your build. Literally your build, not his. If you're playing well, always feel like you're ahead, because Zerg should be ahead if you play well. You just have to know that. Like, Zerg scales faster than other races. That's why every single Terran player you play against, what do? Fucking kill drones, bro. I'm gonna kill your drones because fuck Zerg. Like, Zerg will ramp up faster than Terran will. That is what Zerg's power is. So they have to kill your economy. If you don't lose economy, always think you're ahead in supply if you're macroing well. Every time.
Okay.
And if you're not, if you ever watch a replay and go, well, shit, dude, this guy actually had like 50 more supply than I did, and I didn't even lose drones. Well, like, look at what happened then. The guy is obviously probably good, that first of all. But secondly, you're like, oh, well, makes sense. My natural queen has fucking 149 energy. Okay, there's your problem. Like, you're not really utilizing Larva as well as you could be, stuff like that. But if you just crank your macro out and just base your opponent's supply off of yours, if you're playing well, you will always know where he's at, and it should be behind you. And if you do something like, for instance, you do a run by into his natural, just like he did to you, but let's say you didn't lose any drones, yet he lost like 15 SCVs, and you just saw an opening and you just took it, and you were like, you didn't even make a lot of lings, you just used like 14 lings, you killed SCVs, and you're good to go. And then now you could be like, well, normally Terran's at 120 when I'm at 150, but because I fucked him over early, he's probably going to be like at 95 or like 90 when I'm at 150 because I set his build behind now. And you just think about shit like that. Just get used to where you're at on an average game when things don't have problems, and then base yourself off this. Like, Zerg should always be a bit ahead all the time. And especially like if you're going LingBaneHydra, supplies are going to be closer than not. Like, they're like, if you're 150 and he's 120, you're playing like crazy good. If you're 150, he's like 140, it's probably a little bit more accurate. But if you're go ahead.
I actually did want to ask you about that. Does it take longer to max out with LingBaneHydra than it would with like Roach Hydra or something like that?
Yes. Roaches are the fastest unit you can max out with Zerg. So if you go for Roach openers, it's gonna inflate your supply like crazy. So if you're like 150 to 120 with Roach Hydra or with LingHydra Bane versus Terran, you're doing great. If you're 150 to 120 with Roaches, that's like average. You would want to be more like 170 to 120 with Roaches, or like 160, like even higher. Like, Roaches are insane how fast you can make them if you're just cranking them out, like tons of them. All right, and then yeah, like, just kind of coming back to the game now. Your creep spread definitely right now. I'm gonna give you a scale here, okay? If we're talking about 10 minutes, I'm not even kidding, dude. With the little amounts of pressure that he has done to you, you got harassed by Hellions early and then nothing has happened. I think your creep spread should be like this. Put your camera on everyone vision just to make sure you can see my pings. And
yeah, I got the stream up. I can see.
Okay. It should be like this far.
Okay.
at 10 minutes. And imagine how much more vision you would have if you could see like the whole south side with, you know, with a creep on the south side, north side.
I think I'd feel a lot more comfortable if I could see all of that.
Yeah. Because the thing is about your creep is there's definitely been like moments where there's like 2 minutes where it doesn't move at all, and then it moves like 2 more, and then it doesn't move again for like a full minute.
Yeah, I think it's one of the first things that I sacrifice when I'm trying to do other stuff.
Yeah.
But
and if you prioritize it, and like when you're sitting here defensively, that should definitely be a priority. And you're, you know, because again, it just gives you indirect scouting where it makes it easy to not have to worry about putting your army all over the place because you can see everything. And here's another thing too. This is actually a great way to make your life easier. See how big your army is, and see how, like, if you're not attacking yet and you're waiting to get ready to attack, what you could do with this army is you could actually do something like grab a third of it, send it to your top base. Grab a third of it, send it to your, like, leave it at your base that's in the front where your fourth is, or your third, whatever. And then grab a third of your army again and, like, leave it in your main base. Just, like, literally spread it out. Because if your creep spread is going to warn you when he does a timing, you could easily reconnect all of it and get ready to deal with the timing. But if you don't have creep spread, and the second you see his army, he's sieging your fucking hatchery, then that's when it's like, oh, well, shit, my army was spread out, so that sucks. Now I got to let the hatchery die, probably, or I got to, like, lose bits of my army that's unorganized.
Yeah, I definitely have bad habits with splitting the army. I probably rely too much on select all army, so I can feel really picked apart by, you know, a drop or 2 drops or something.
Yeah. So if literally if you're not planning on doing an attack and you just spread your army out defensively and you have zero intentions of pushing him, the faster you, like, the more you spread it out, the easier it's going to be to deal with harass, because he's not going to be having 100 supply and medevacs flying into your main base. You know what I mean? He's going to have like 20 supply or 10 supply. So if you just spread your army out, you'll way more easily deal with pressure, little tiny harass pressure, and it allows you to have more time alleviated to do things like spread your creep. Because if I were to ask you what's the cooldown of a creep tumor to spread it, what do you think it is?
10 seconds maybe?
Okay, yeah, it's 11 seconds. I'm glad you have an idea, because a lot of people, when I ask them that question, they're like, it's the same as an inject. And I'm like, no, making a tumor is the same as an inject because it's 25 energy versus 25 energy, but an inject is fucking 30 seconds. It's only 29. And a creep tumor is 11. So you can you can almost do 3 fucking creep spreads in 1 inject.
Yeah.
So it's insane how fast you can do your creep if you really prioritize it.
Okay, that'll definitely be something I work on.
And it's definitely what you should do when nothing's going on. Like, I would never tell you, okay, right now, dude, if I was sitting next to you watching you play this game, okay, go spread some creep. Okay, spread some creep, bro. Like, don't worry about this fight. Like, if you were lower league, if you were like silver or some shit, and you were just like moving him, I would actually tell you to do that then. But if we're talking about like Diamond, Masters, GM, and you're actually at that stage where like you kind of need to control your army a bit more, yeah, obviously try to always take fights when you have time to take a fight. And if it happens right now and you're going to take the fight, then you can take it. But as soon as it's over and you have a moment where shit's not crazy, definitely spread your creep again, always. And when you're defensive, always spread your creep.
Yeah, I guess that, I guess that may be what it is some things feel like they need my attention, but really there's better ways to spend that resource.
Yeah, like I'll actually go back just for a second. We'll go back to this where we just were in just a second, but I'm going to go back to like 8 minutes, and I'm just going to watch your camera and see what you look at. Checking out the main base, checking out your next base, checking out your next base. It's like you didn't inject there. You're making a round of units, moving your army. Like, see, like that, for instance, that army movement was pointless. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, I think that's instead of just shifting everything into the control group, I think I shift it, move it, select it, and then move it.
Yeah,
it's useless.
And then you know, now you dealt with the army, you killed his army. But now, in terms of Larva, you have another 11 sitting there. Like, while you're fighting him, you have some Larva sitting there again. And you made Hydras a long time ago, but you haven't actually used that Larva yet. And you're really focused on this medevac drop, which is, I understand, it's distracting, he's attacking you. It'd be way easier. But here's the thing, too. If you spread your creep, it's not going to be so distracting because it's not going to be so abrupt. Like, oh shit, drones are dying. Like you'll be like,
Right.
wow, look at those 2 drops, like 4 screen lengths away from my hatchery. They're flying over creep
Yeah.
right now. And then you're looking at your army again. You go back to your main. You inject. I liked it. You only inject your main though. Like if every time you inject, do all your hatcheries at once. Don't just do 1 hatchery at a time, right?
Yeah, I think I inject, then I got distracted by the Evo chambers. But I've noticed you always inject, and then you look at other stuff.
Yeah, it's a
Probably
sequence,
better habit.
which is also how I creep spread. If I'm in a creep spread, I go the all creep spreads, and then I go back to doing something else. Like I'm never gonna do like if let's say I have 10 tumors, I'm not gonna be like, all right, tumor 2 spread, tumor 3 spread, okay, Hydra upgrade, okay, Evo chamber upgrade, okay, Evo chamber upgrade, okay, tumor 7 spread, okay, Lings move over there, okay, tumor 6 spread, okay, make an Overlord, send it that way, okay, tumor 1 spread, okay, make another army move it that way, okay, tumor 10 spread. Like it's just so fucking awkward if you do it that way. It just makes it's just a fucking mess as essentially at that point. But if you're like tumor 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 spread, done. Come back to that in 11 seconds. Do other shit. Inject, inject. Upgrade. Okay, now I can move my army once. Okay. Tumor. Like it's all the same. Like it's just sequential like shit that you do with tasks.
Yeah, habits.
Yeah.
You need to build.
Yep. Just don't make it chaotic and just like a little bit of everything all at once. Just make it a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of this, a lot of that, and it's just gonna feel like you hit your rounds basically.
Yeah, I think it gets more chaotic when I feel like when I'm thrown off of my rhythm or they do something I wasn't expecting, and then I kind of get freaked out. And
Yeah.
I'm sure just more practice will help. I don't want to keep you too much past our time.
You're all good, dude.
It's kind of a long game.
Yeah.
But I think I've learned.
But
I've gotten a lot
yeah,
of
well,
really helpful.
usually what I do as well is like I definitely will always focus. Like it'll take me fucking 30 minutes to get past the first 3 minutes because I'm like, all right, let's really talk about this because it's fucking important. Because a lot of people when they look at the game, they're like, ViBE, I just want to know how the fuck do I fight a battlecruiser army because it's unbeatable, dude. They can't beat that shit. And I'm like, well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's actually how you. It's like the tools you've given yourself to fucking beat a battlecruiser. It's like a guy walking out of the fucking woods with a fucking metal mallet, and he's like, I'm gonna kill a tank with this. It's like, no, dude, you're not gonna win. But if you give yourself like a rocket launcher or some shit, suddenly you have a chance, or give yourself better tools to win the fight, and suddenly it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that fight, I like that you pulled back with the Hydras a little bit. I do think you have a good number of Hydras as long as you don't make more. You do want to stay in the range of like right around 20, and the fact that you have 18 is pretty close to perfect. So that's great. I like that you pulled them back and didn't waste them.
Yeah, I think one thing I struggle with is I try to build up a big army and then I go attack, and I don't think I'm very discriminate about what's a good engagement, and I think I'm kind of prone to throwing away those units in engagements like that.
Yeah. Well, that problem will get lifted a lot off of you when you start basing your supply off of their supply. If you just start realizing, okay, I could. If you play a game that's efficient for you and you know you're ahead, that's a good fight. You will know that before you take that fight because you're pacing very well. If you pace poorly, then maybe you should be like, okay, maybe I don't want to take this fight. Maybe I want to do something more cost efficient. And here's the thing too about a nice creep spread. You could set up fights. If he's not already attacking your hatchery, do not feel rushed. Okay, don't be like, fuck, I gotta take the fight now. He's walking in the middle of the map. Be like, all right, he's coming towards me. How about I just half my army up, half my army stays. The half of my army that goes up will now go around him and come behind him, and I will pincer his fucking army with a flank.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that more. I think I just need to fight that natural urge to panic.
Yeah.
And I guess I said that a little bit there, but it was kind of poorly.
It was fine. That was good. It just don't panic because you should know if your build paces well off of what you're doing. You should never feel like I'm dead. I'm just so dead, dude. And that's why you should use quotas for your builds. Like, look at some of the builds that I do in B2GM and just simply look at supply of a timer in the game. And if you can, like, if you're like, okay, ViBE's at this amount of 165 supply at 8 minutes or whatever. I'm just gonna throw a number out there, and you're trying to do a build just like I am, and you're at 110. You're like, okay, my pacing is way the fuck off. I should just work on that. That's what I should really work on. And this game is kind of a throwaway. Like I'll try to make it work, but it's not what I should base all my knowledge of this game off of. I should instead figure out why I'm not pacing that way, which is what we talked about a lot this game. Like the whole like larva thing, your injects are missing, you're losing drones because you're not spreading out your defense properly. All these things add up.
Mhm.
And yeah, as long as you can pace close to it or on it, if you pace better than it, fucking amazing. That's great. It is possible.
It's funny how it never feels like that's what's happening in the moment, but it always is what's happening.
Yeah.
It's a macro setting yourself up for it.
It is, like, for sure, because it's how you you continue to have control of the game for sure. Like, it never ends. And now at this stage, just looking at drone count, the drone count's not bad actually. You've definitely done some damage to his base too. Your saturation is not bad. Maybe the only thing I could say that was not great there was maybe overcommitted Hydras on the PF earlier, because they stayed for a long time and a lot of them died. And now, at this, that was also probably a little bit too early to take a fight. Like, if you ever find yourself in a situation where your army looks really tiny versus his, and you're like, well, I'm going to totally lose this, a better idea would be run your drones away. Like I would have said, it would have been better to just let the hatchery die, let him waste more time killing a base. You can transfer all these drones at your third to your, like, the middle right base to your north base, like all the way in the corner, and then just build more, build more, build more. Give yourself more time to get more Ling, more Bane, more Hydra. And if you really wanted to do something crazy, really, like, this is not required, but if you get really advanced, you could actually send your current army between his army and his base, and your new army builds while he kills your existing base, like that one base, the one hatchery. You just build more, and then what you do is you cut off reinforcements this way with a big chunk of your army instead of taking a fight into a ramp with tanks. Like, you would go like further left and cut him off, and then if he decides to unsiege because he wants to go home, you could just pounce on him then. If he waits, if he waits, if he waits, and now you have another army that's being built, and you can now again flank him and collapse on him. Your fight goes way better. But like, you actually had the lead. Every second that went by, you had the advantage because you have way more economy. So taking a
especially with LingBaneHydra, right? Against Terran, you pay a big price to get close to them if you're just running units in to die over and over again. It's really bad.
And like, you actually overall overpowered his army. So if you just played that a little more patient, you would have really overpowered his army, and you would still have the same amount of drones mining. It's just you would have a hatchery dead instead of like a 40 supply army that died earlier. So patience is also, you know, like, just again, this all comes from pacing, and patience makes sense if you overcommit your army and you throw a little bit too much away. Maybe give you, but you, let's say in turn you also fuck his economy up, right? You're like, oh, I just ruined his economy. Like, his fourth base is dead. I'm on 5 bases right now economy wise, and I killed a lot of SCVs too. Like, I know his economy sucks, so he needs to do something to come back. Every second you extend that and make it longer, you have a higher chance of crushing his army. And again, that's just off pacing, because your build is now paced at a more efficient rate than his build is. Yo, Pain User, what up, man? Thank you, dude. How you doing, man?
Yeah, that was one of the things that gets me all freaked out, is that just, 2 Liberators, and then all of a sudden I feel like I'm...
like, shit just falls apart. Ah!
Yeah, I just don't know what to do, and then... Yeah, I didn't realize how I was actually ahead for a lot of this game.
Yeah.
I just felt like things were...
control and panic.
Overwhelmed.
Control will go up, panic will go down. The more you invest in the creep spread, and the more you fill in the gaps of the sides of the map with overlords. So if you have just a net of vision everywhere, which is what Zerg can do, especially if you're playing the way you did, which is, I would say, 80% of this game was defensive. Like, you just sat there. You both just sat there, macroed, which is normal. If that's how the game goes, you have so much time to set that up. And if you do set that up, you'll have warnings everywhere if you're gonna get attacked all the time, and it just feels easier to be like, well, I'm not, like, I know something's gonna come over there, so something as easy as you could do would be like something like this. Okay, say there's a hatchery that doesn't have a spore at it, and you see one Liberator going to the bottom, and you see one Liberator going to the top. You could literally do something like this: A, move my whole army to the bottom of the map. Shift click 2 Hydras out, rebind my army. A, move my whole army to the top. Shift click 2 Hydras out, rebind my army. And then forget about it. Like, let those 2 Hydras kill Liberator on the bottom. Let those 2 Hydras kill Liberator on the top. And then you're fine. And then as soon as the Liberators are dead, and you know that the Hydra's just chilling there, you could even select all army and then go like shift 1. And then now the Hydras are back in your army and you just go about your game again as you were before.
Mm-hmm.
And you could make moves like that super fast and efficient and easy and not panic about it at all if you saw it coming before it happened. And even if it was happening, you could still do that. It would have to be more of like a it'll give you it, even though it's not actually any different really, it gives you that sense of urgency where you're like, I gotta deal with it now. Fuck, and he's also pushing. But yeah, creep massive at slowing down Terran and speeding up you at controlling everything. So that the biggest thing to work on for you is your creep spread, and you know, just getting that read on what is capable, and you know, going back to what we talked earlier with like 3 base Terran, 2 base Terran, what you can stop at with your drone counts, stuff like that. But just know that every game, no matter what, if you see a natural with your first Overlord right away, you can saturate 3 bases pretty fucking fast.
Okay.
All right, dude. You have any questions about anything before we wrap?
No, thanks. That was really helpful.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. I wish you the best of luck, and thank you again for doing a lesson, dude. And yeah, I'll see you around.
Great.
All
Talk
right.
to you later.
Later, man.
Bye.
All right, guys. There you go. That has been a coaching lesson with my boy George, Mr. Bright White. But if you guys liked it, if you enjoyed it, go check out more videos. I always say this. They're on YouTube. You can find them easy peasy. Coaching section, replay analysis section, bronze to GM section. Tons of stuff to help you get better at StarCraft if you're interested. So thank you for watching. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Much love. Goodbye, guys.